Good afternoon, William Golding. I'm here from the Bloomfield Hills newspaper, and I just wanted to talk to you about your famous book, Lord of the Flies.
Mm.
I've read your book. I love your book. I've read it multiple times. Done reports on it. I just wanted to ask you a few questions about that. Where did you get the idea to write your book from?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for having me, and thank you for taking the time to interview me.
Anytime.
The idea that my book came from, well, for those of you who don't know, I served in World War II, and this was a very eye-opening experience for me because of the way that people were treated. World War II was a very cruel war, to put it lightly. There was a lot of violence, and a lot of different things happened that I wish had not happened. So I realized that people are just inherently evil, and I wanted to show this with younger kids.
I know that you taught later after World War II, at Oxford, and I just wanted to ask you, you did an experiment, correct? And what was your experiment? Could you go on about that?
Well, I had a debate in my class, and there was one side of the room versus the other, and the debate just started and it went off, and not even 25 minutes into it, there was almost an all-out brawl that I had to stop. I realized that maybe it was just the environment, but I think it was something in those kids and those students that made them turn to fighting in, the whole fight or flight. It turned them in, and they chose to fight, and I think that is what made them clash so much.
So, are you referring to Thomas Hobbes, correct? And his theory of man is inherently evil, correct?
Yes. That is the theory that this book was based off of, how man is inherently evil, and how there is evil in each and every one of us. We just have to choose to either let it come out or not let it come out, and the rules of society that we have to abide by, they will keep that evil inside.
Well, you know of Sigmund Freud, correct?
Correct.
The id, the superego, and the ego. Explain to me how these affected your book and the characters in them.
Well, I really had to base the characters off of those three types of people. The id was Roger, and how he was just evil. He was the evil force in the book. He was the antagonist along with Jack, but Roger was the one that was just pure evil. I mean, he killed Piggy, and I made him out to be just pure evil. Along with that, the ego was Ralph, because he was the center part of it, and I like to think of it as Ralph was the man. He was the man in the middle, and then Roger, and then Simon or Piggy were on each side, and they were like the angel and the demon on the shoulder, and they were telling him what to do, and he had to decide which one to pick. As I said, Simon and Piggy were the superego. They were the voice of reason for Ralph, and they let Ralph go on, and they helped Ralph make the right decisions.
Well, I'm sure you know that your book has been challenged year after year. And, I was just wondering, what is your opinion on that? Like, why do you think it's challenged? Obviously, we both know that it's a violent book. You have young children from a choir with sticks and killing people. Um, what is your reaction to your book being challenged?
Excuse me. Um, I'm not surprised by it, but I am also, I am a little bit, I lied. I actually am a little bit surprised by it. I can see how parents and maybe some teachers would go against the book and try to not make it readable for high schoolers. But I think there is a lesson to learn that this book teaches, that you really do have to watch out for who's around you.
Well, who do you think challenges your book? I mean, obviously teachers, parents, but like what age group do you think would be most likely to say, I don't want to read that book, that is too violent for me to read?
I think it's mostly the parents of high school children, simply because the book teaches that their little baby isn't as perfect as they believed. The idea that man is inherently evil. It's an idea that people can't really grasp when you first talk to them. So I think that is why it has been challenged, and that is the people that have challenged it.
Well, you explained why you think it could be challenged, but overall, reading your book, do you think it should be challenged?
No. Because it teaches kids that rules are important. Without society and without the rules along with them, people would turn to the id. And I think it teaches these kids to think about society and think about the rules that they have to abide by and listen to them. Now, having said that, I do understand how parents may not like their kids reading that violence. I mean, they are kids that are attacking each other. That is in my book. I will not deny that because I did write it. But having said that, I do think there are lessons to be learned.
Well, you know the characters, you wrote them, you created them.
Of course.
Your characters, what do you think your characters represent? Like, who do you feel, as the author, what do you represent in the character?
Well, I think... Are you asking me what character represents me?
Yeah, let's just go with that.
Okay. Well, I think that... I think that the character that represents me is probably Ralph. I go along with Ralph. And the way he has to decide between good and evil all the time and decide what he has to do, if it's right or wrong. That did go through my head when I was in World War II. When I served, I had to make decisions, and I had to make decisions if they were either good or bad, and I was unsure what to do sometimes, so I had to seek help, and sometimes I seemed to seek help from the id, and sometimes I seemed to seek help from the superego.
With that said, what character do you feel society most represents?
I think society represents all of the different characters in the book. I think society can be the ego or the superego or the id. There are so many different people with so many different personalities and so many different ways of life that all three are represented in the world that we live in today.
Do you think the rules in place in America today will keep the id suppressed in society? I mean, I know you're from Britain, but now that you're here in the U.S., I feel that this would be a correct question for you to ask.
Well, I think they can. I think they do help. that the rules are set up. They are obviously rules to help society get along and help society not turn to the id. So I think these rules will help, but there is corruption in the world. That is just the way the world works because of the id and the evil that is among us. That is just a part of life. So I think that it's a wash between whether the superego or the id will win.
Well, you mentioned government before in your other books, and is your perception of Ralph and the perception of Jack, is that from government? Like, is that like thought of being representation of their government?
Yes. Coming out of World War II, it was the Germans versus, well, really the rest of the world, in England and the U.S. So it was democracy versus dictatorship, and as you can see throughout the book, Jack really represents dictatorship and how he wants to have complete power, and how hunting is the most important thing, and how he needs to have the power, while Ralph uses the conch to help out the Ralph uses the conch to help the people and to have himself not represented but elected. So I think I know that is what I wrote about, and that's how they are to be perceived. Ralph as the democracy and Jack as the dictatorship.
Well, as we talked before about your book being censored, do you feel that it being censored is taking away knowledge from the children, that maybe we need to think of ourselves differently? We are not the perfect humans as we all thought we were. Maybe we are inherently evil and we need to follow the rules. Therefore, we can survive and thrive as a community and as the entire world.
Well, I honestly don't think young children should be reading this book because it is violent. But I think when you are in high school, you are old enough you begin to form your own opinions when you're in high school and how you think the world should work. So I think reading this book will help to at least open a viewpoint that man is inherently evil, and proving Thomas Hobbes' theory, and that these things can happen.
Well, I just want to thank you for your time. It's been great talking to you.
No problem. Thank you for yours, and I will be glad to do it any other time.
Thank you.